What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with reactions to the classics. Today we got a reaction to the top 10 Muppet songs brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Evan David. Thank you, Evan David. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the patron link on the end screen. We couldn't do it without the patrons. Also, if you'd like to support us just with a one-time donation or one-time reaction, check out our Buy Me a Coffee page, also linked below. All right, obviously I know who the Muppets are. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I mean, I was born in 1971. I think the Muppets, for all of us, for most of us, I won't say all of us, most of us, just have this special place of innocence for us. I will say I only know one song on this thing. I mean, I didn't know these songs, so I'm going to leave this all to Evan David. If you haven't been with us before, the music won't be in the video, but it will be at a Vimeo link below. So check that out if you want to watch this with the music. Go ahead and click on it now. Evan David says, songs which are, with possibly one or two exceptions, we shall see, taken from either the original Muppet TV series or the series of Muppet movies. So nothing from either Sesame Street or Fraggle Rock, for example. Just setting those parameters. Evan Davis says rock and roll and wider pop culture legend has it that the genesis of the Muppets and their music can be traced back as far as September the 24th, 1936, when future puppeteer, filmmaker, and all-around creative inspiration Jim Henson was born in Greenville, Mississippi. After gravitating towards a career in puppetry while in high school and creating early puppet-based TV series Sam and Friends, as well as a series of groundbreaking coffee commercials starring his puppets during the mid-1950s, Henson co-founded the Muppets, Inc. company alongside his fellow puppeteer and future wife, Jane Neville, in 1958, with Henson himself often claiming that the term Muppet, I never knew what this came from, itself derived from a combination of the words marionette and puppet. Makes sense, right? From the very beginning, moreover, music would play a key role in their embryonic Muppet success. For as writer and Muppet expert Craig Shemin points out, quote, the Muppets sang before they ever spoke, with most early performances consisting of skits lip-synced to existing recordings, with Jane Henson herself in turn recalling how, quote, the music librarian at WRC-TV knew all the humor records from the 40s and 50s, and Jim would come up with a way to use them. Jim loved bringing out some sort of quirky visual to what people were listening to. For the mid-1970s, and after many of his Muppet creations, such as Big Bird, Bert and Ernie, Oscar the Grouch, and the irrepressible Cookie Monster, to name but a few, had joined his already pre-existing stalwart character Kermit the Frog in providing much of the heart behind the legendary children's TV show Sesame Street, which in itself broke new musical ground of sort in its use of animated advertising-style jingles to promote the use of numbers and letters, which were themselves often produced by Henson from its debut in 1969. That's how I learned my ABCs. That's how I learned to count. I was a latchkey kid. Both my parents worked. I was home alone all the time. I was in front of a TV. I learned how to count and do my ABCs from Sesame Street. Henson was finally able to persuade British TV mogul Sir Lou Grey to fund what would soon become the equally legendary Muppet Show, which would make its own debut on British TV in September 1976 before being syndicated to the U.S. and eventually reaching a worldwide audience of 235 million people per week by the time of its third season in 1978. Many of whom would no doubt go on to purchase the soundtrack albums and other merchandise associated with the show. Given the staggering level of global success, moreover, and it's unsurprising that many of the most prominent pop musicians of the late 70s and early 80s will end up as guest stars during the Muppet Show's original 5-season, 120 episodes long run, including the likes of John Denver, Elton John, Diana Ross, Harry Belafonte, Kenny Rogers, Linda Ronstadt, one of Evan David's favorites, Alice Cooper, Paul Simon, Helen Reddy, Debbie Harry, and Leo Sayer, to name but a few. While many of the non-musical guests, such as Roger Moore, James Bond, ladies and gentlemen, Linda Carter, and Raquel Welch, would also get the opportunity to show off their own singing chops at some point during their respective appearances. As the show's musical consultant Larry Grossman later put it, quote, I think the proportion of music in each episode was largely dictated by who the guest stars were. If you had Milton Berle, it would lean heavily towards the comedy, but if you had Chris Christopherson, then it would lean in the opposite direction. There were certain core staples that were always a part of the show. There was always an opening number and a finale. It was sort of a standard variety show format, and the fact that the setting was a theater almost dictated it. Indeed, many of the most endearing characters amongst the Muppets themselves would feature prominently alongside the often banjo-wielding Kermit as singers and musicians on the show, such as arch diva Miss Piggy, pianist Rolf the Dog, and especially the Muppets' own electric and eccentric house rock band Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, whose explosive drummer, the frenzied wild thing called Animal, will become one of the show's breakout stars, while even apparently non-musical characters such as Fozzie Bear, Gonzo the Great, or Scooter would often sing a song of their own when the occasion called for it. Similarly, and as the Muppet Show's head writer Jerry Jewell once put it behind the scenes, quote, everyone contributed music ideas to the show. But to be truthful, music selection and the shaping of musical numbers was Jim's favorite part. He contributed more than anyone, especially the opening numbers. As such, and as Henson biographer Brian J. Jones put it, it is fitting that while, quote, Jim could barely read treble clef and only tinkle at the piano and often joked that he could barely sing, his passion more than made up for his lack of technique. During rehearsals, Jim would always sing with gusto, gleefully announcing a key change by calling out modulate, a habit that so amused Muppet performer Frank Oz, the great Frank Oz, that he would incorporate it into the personality of the unconventional Muppet musician Marvin Suggs. Music would be an important part of the Muppet Show, and Jim chose the songs to be performed on the show with the same relish with which he had once chosen records for Sam and Friends. Each week he would sort eagerly through 10-pound alley sheet music and old songbooks, as well as scouring the current top 40 charts for songs with unusual or catchy hooks. When it came to popular music, Jim's personal taste had mellowed over time. What may have looked like he would be right at home, lounging in a beanbag chair listening to 1970s stadium rock through oversized headphones, he actually preferred so-called adult contemporary artists like Jim Croce, James Taylor, but we won't hold that against him, and Billy Joel. Still, even when selecting songs from the mellower side of the top 40, Jim could make some surprising choices, pulling deep cuts and obscure B-sides rather than the more familiar chart toppers, end quote. Even as the Muppets began to shift from their original TV habitat to the big screen with the release of the first self-titled Muppet movie in 1979, of which more later. Meanwhile, rocking, witty, or sentimental musical numbers will continue to play a key role in their continuing success in both formats, a process which moreover continues to this day, with recent highlights including winning an Oscar for Best Original Song for Man or Muppet from their 2011 comeback movie, The Muppets, and the Electric Mayhem starring in their own Spotlight solo series called The Muppets Mayhem on Disney Plus in 2023. Most significantly and poignantly, moreover, the Muppet phenomenon has thus also managed to endure the tragically early and ultimately untimely loss of Jim Henson himself on May the 16th, 1990, at the age of only 53. That's how old I am right now. To toxic shock syndrome brought on by a lingering strep infection for which he had delayed seeking treatment, and to his memory that this particular top 10 list of Muppet songs is dedicated. As Muppet performer Jerry Nelson once put it, the Muppets' relationship with music has always been an eclectic melange. Jim drew from every musical genre in the world. He's a master at crafting ideas to words with the right song or melody. It is therefore unsurprising that this list of top 10, Evan David says, of my own personal favorite Muppet songs is decidedly eclectic in its own right, with as ever, no pretensions whatsoever of being definitive, but hopefully still being fun and interesting enough to spark a lively debate amongst all you budding Statler and Waldorfs out there in the comments below. So without further ado, or don't, it's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. They're already on, man. It's time to meet the Muppets on RTTC tonight. All right, now it's time to move on, he says, to the list proper below. And as a long-standing Muppet fan myself, since first seeing the Muppet Babies cartoon as a kid back in the late 80s, let's just hope that I can do Kermit and Company justice. I'm sure he will. His lists are always fantastic. Just a reminder again, the music won't be in the video, but it will be at the Vimeo link below. Let's kick this thing off with the number 10 track. Muppet Show theme song, first released as part of the first self-titled soundtrack album to The Muppet Show in May of 1977. This unforgettable theme was co-written by frequent Sesame Street songwriter Sam Pottle and Jim Henson himself, with Jerry Jewell later remarking how, quote, Jim was not about to give up the song royalties on a TV series theme to anyone else. He wrote the lyrics himself and did one splendid job, actually, which makes sense, right? Royalties every time this thing's played. Certainly remains the perfect introduction, Evan David says, to the world of the Muppets to this day. And as such, I'd like you to please react to the decidedly quirky official video for my own personal favorite version of said theme song by equally quirky Chicago rock band OK Go, which was itself originally released as part of the highly recommended Muppets cover album, The Green Album, in August of 2011. So that's actually the song I have showing down below on Spotify. But a lot of the times when I'm going to show the song on Spotify down below, it's not from the right artist. I just want you to know what the song is that I'm talking about. All right, we'll bring the video up. I would say I'm going to have the lyrics up as always, but these are all video performances. It's the Muppets. They have to be, right? Thanks again to Evan David. Let's get it. All right, OK Go with the Muppet theme song. Really well done video. Muppets are there, obviously. I see why Evan David chose this one. A good choice to do this one. I much prefer, you need to go listen to the actual song by the Muppets. It's even better, I think. But they did a really good job on this. I think I'm going to be more your host through this top 10 than your analyzer. I mean, there's not a lot to analyze. These are Muppet songs, right? So let's go to number 9. And we, of course, got Once in a Lifetime. First shown as part of the far too brief and much missed Muppets Tonight series back in 1996. The Muppets have long been adept at translating hit songs by other artists in their own unique Muppetational style, and this Kermit Does David Byrne tune remains my own personal favorite example of their doing so, narrowly beating their viral hit spoof of Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody from 2009, largely due to the fact that back in my days as a history teacher, I used to play it to my students in order to hopefully provoke some thought as to how did we get here, whether human nature is really the same as it ever was throughout history, and so on and so on. Plus, it's just really funny, as I hope you agree after reacting to this clip. And yeah, I mean, I love this original song. All right, Once in a Lifetime, love the original song. They did such a good job of recreating this, right? It's fantastic visual. Good choice for number 9. Next up at number 8, we got Mana Mana, also first released as part of the Muppet Show's debut soundtrack in 1977. This ultimate Muppet earworm was in fact not created for the show, but it was in fact originally written by Italian composer Piero Umiliani for an exploitation film called Sweden, Heaven and Hell, becoming a minor international hit before Jim Henson and company eventually performed their own version on Sesame Street, The Ed Sullivan Show, and finally on the debut episode of The Muppet Show itself, the latter of which we are going to watch. All right, Manana. I got the pronunciation right now because that's all there is to this song. Very simple, not a lot to it compared to the last 2 videos, but it obviously just sticks in your head, man. It totally sticks in your head. Well done. Next up, we have Can You Picture That? First released as part of the soundtrack of the aforementioned first self-titled Muppet movie in July 1979, this far-out slice of psychedelic boogie fully deserves its place on this list for 2 reasons. First, is a perfect introduction to the eternally groovy Muppet band of Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, and second, because it's the favorite Muppet song of fellow longtime RTT stalwart Becky Nobe officially sing-along clip. Everyone watches official sing-along clip. Let's go. A song itself that would have been right in its place in the late 60s, early 70s. Super well done video, right? Super cool, super well done video. Can you picture that? All right, next up we got Happiness Hotel. First released as part of the soundtrack to the second Muppet movie, The Great Muppet Caper, in June 1981. This gleefully riotous tune is a perfect example of the chaotic music potential that can be unleashed by the Muppets ensemble in full swing, as well as hopefully putting any travel nightmares of our own in perspective. As you'll hopefully agree, we will react to another sing-along clip. All right, very catchy, Happiness Hotel. The amount of effort that goes into putting these together has got to be absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, absolutely mind-boggling. Now we're going to get to the top half, the top 5 of Evan David's top 10 Muppet songs. We got Being Green. I think I actually know this song. I knew this, and obviously I knew the Muppet theme song Once in a Lifetime, not their version, but Being Green, once again, first released as part of the aforementioned first Muppet Show soundtrack album in 1977. This beautifully simple anthem of tolerance and self-acceptance has been covered many times by artists ranging from Van Morrison to Frank Sinatra, but it is the immortal signature tune of Kermit the Frog himself that this Joe Rapiso composed tune has been best known ever since it was first performed on Sesame Street back in 1970, quickly becoming what Henson biographer Brian J. Jones dubbed, quote, a hymn for the new decade, still struggling with the turbulent civil rights reform, political skepticism, and sputtering idealism that had marked the end of the 1960s. Given the cynicism of the era, then, what makes Rapiso's tune so remarkable, especially as sung by Jim, is its sheer sincerity, never coy or overly sentimental. As we will, Evan David Host will agree by watching this performed on the second season of The Muppet Show. All right, Being Green. I absolutely did not know this song. I thought I did. It seems like he sung it in the style of Sinatra, right? You can just picture Sinatra singing this thing. Really good message to the song. Really good message for kids, especially, to be watching, to be accepting and enjoying who you are. Next up at number 4, we got Moving Right Along. Once again, first released as part of the first Muppet movie soundtrack in 1979. This bouncy Rollickin' Travelers tune serves as a charming showcase for both the gloriously beautiful landscape of the open road, for the glorious, funny, quintessential Muppet double act of Kermit, and the hapless would-be comedian Fozzie Bear. Another sing-along clip. Let's go. All right, Moving Right Along. It definitely reminded me of a song, and I could not place it, especially at the start. But catchy, super well done, going through all the different topography in different areas. So, yeah, good choice. Next up at number 3 on Evan David's top 10 Muppet songs, we have A Professional Pilot, first released as part of the soundtrack to my personal favorite Muppet movie, Muppet Treasure Island, in February 1996. This gleefully villainous job advert for the pirate tackle profession is both a perfect example why Tim Curry's bravura performance as swashbuckling rogue Long John Silver remains perhaps the finest human guest star performance in any Muppet project, bar none. Wow. As well as being a wickedly fun tune in its own right, we are going to, of course, check out a clip. All right, A Professional Pirate, well done, catchy. Interesting because it's really Tim Curry singing it, and the Muppets are kind of backing on it. But, well done, obviously pulled from the movie. All right, we got 2 songs left. Number 2, I'm going to go back there someday. Once again, taken from the soundtrack of the first Muppet movie in 1979, this poignant ode to longingly looking for a place to belong, and perhaps finding it in the place you'd least expect, is a suitably moving tribute to my own personal favorite Muppet, Evan David says, namely the world's greatest daredevil whatever, Gonzo the Great, with its composer Paul Williams remarking how, quote, I was related to Gonzo. He's a kindred spirit, he's a little odd looking, and I think I'm a little odd looking. In fact, when I was a little boy, I used to wonder if I was part alien. It would be impossible for Gonzo to look up at the sky and not wonder if he belongs there. A sentiment which I think, Evan David says, many of us music oddballs in the RTTC community share, perhaps more than we like to admit. Let's check it out. All right, definitely the saddest and most melancholy, real simple, just around the campfire and everybody looking reflective, and Gonzo pouring out his heart, a good number 2. And drum roll, please, but if you're familiar with the Muppets at all, you're going to know the number 1 song. Now, of course, was there really ever any doubt? Rainbow Connection, taken for the last time from the soundtrack to the first Muppet movie in 1979. The creation of this truly magnificently Oscar-nominated tune has been described by its composer Paul Williams, who did the last song, thusly, quote, we all agree that we had to establish Kermit's soul from the very beginning, and to do that, he has to ponder some big questions. The song addresses the inner voice that tells Kermit that he can try to do these big things. Then at the end of the film, the stage explodes, and the end of the rainbow appears. The actual rainbow connection. That's the proof of the whole Muppets philosophy, end quote. Evan David says on a more personal level, meanwhile, Kermit's song has become a long-standing RTTC anthem ever since our lockdown streaming days. So back when we first started streaming in 2020, it was during COVID. We do it on Friday nights. Trey now would do it from his bedroom. It was very low-key tech-wise, right? The channel was just starting, right? We've taken a lot of the money we've made in the channel. Not that we made a lot of money in the channel, but and reinvested it in lights and equipment and all that. But back then it was the iPhone playing through a sound bar on the TV. So we would finish every stream with Rainbow Connection, but man, we would pop people up. We would have so many people in there. It's Friday night. It was a lockdown. We could not go anywhere, right? So good memories in this one. All right, of course, the famous Rainbow Connection. Really good message of the song. Well done videos. We pan out, into the lake area through the forest and see Kermit sitting there playing the banjo. So a perfect choice, obviously, for number 1. Now we'll get to Evan David's honorable mentions. Halfway down the stairs, tenderly, Simon Smith and his amazing dancing bear. Happy Feet, uppity, wishing song, I hope that something better comes along. Finale, The Magic Store. Hey, a Movie, Nightlife, Together Again, I'm Gonna Always Love You. Scrooge, Marley and Marley, Shiver Me Timbers, Cabin Fever, Love Let Us Here. The Witch is in the House, Bohemian Rhapsody, Life's a Happy Song, Pictures in My Head, Man or Muppet, and Rock On, as well as the albums Muppet Beach Party, Kermit Unpigged, and especially the Green Album in their entirety. So Evan David Owens has tons of honorable mentions. My faves, I don't know, man. I mean, it's more about, I guess, the video presentation. I'll go with the Muppets theme song by OK Go with the first one. I thought that was really well done. Once in a Lifetime, Happiness Hotel, and Rainbow Connection. But let me know what your favorites are down below. Other things you would have liked to have seen included. Thank you to Evan David for this very unique top 10. And until next time, guys, I will see you.